A challenging climate, strange days, unprecedented times. However we choose to describe it, there is no doubt that the coronavirus has brought upheaval and disruption to global society on a level that many of us have never experienced before. While there's much talk of the pandemic being a great leveller due to its holistic impact on day-to-day life, the truth is far more complex, with individuals, businesses and organisations feeling the effects of the coronavirus in a variety of different ways. The new normal aims to give these people an opportunity to tell their stories, assess the potential impacts of the pandemic on their lives and careers, as well as exploring the challenges and opportunities that have arisen from this era-defining situation. Each week, myself, Chris Webb and Helen Armitage from the Careers Employability Service at Sheffield Hallam University will be joined by a different guest from the world of industry, educational careers, with opportunities for listeners to put their questions forward in advance of the podcast. Thanks for tuning in and joining us as we explore what the new normal means for all of us on a local, national and global scale. Very good morning and welcome to episode 6 of The New Normal. I'm joined as always by my co-host Helen Armitage. Helen, how are you doing today?
Very well today, Chris. Very well. Eager for the bank holiday weekend, as I'm sure we all are. But no, keep going well. Yeah.
Yep. You do sound like we all might need the bank holiday weekend. It's in
I really do.
There somewhere. So. And we're very, very pleased to say that we're joined today by Carolyn Parry, founder and director of Career Alchemy. Carolyn, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. I've had a fab morning so far, and I'm really excited to be here. So I'm particularly bouncy, which is always a bit of a worry, but no, I'm very bouncy. Thank you. Good.
Wonderful. Very, very good to hear.
Brilliant.
So everyone's sounding in a pretty positive mood, which I guess leads on very nicely to our gloom busters for the week, our good news stories. Helen, what have you seen this week that's really giving you reasons to be cheerful?
Yep, so Nike have been very kind and they've donated over 32,000 pairs of specifically designed shoes to healthcare workers across America, across Europe. These shoes, as I understand it, they normally retail for about $120 and Nike have donated them to healthcare workers that are working flat out at the moment and doing an absolutely brilliant job. So I think from a company like Nike, who has maybe suffered in the past with a few bad reports, I think this is a really, it's a nice stepping stone for them. And I think as well, it goes to show that everyone's kind of coming together during this time and really supporting each other. So yeah, brilliant story to see.
Really, really interesting to hear. And I think conversations going on at the moment about which companies might be remembered post-pandemic. I think you can see a lot of companies starting to pivot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Carolyn, what's your good news story this week?
Well, mine was an absolute magic moment today, and I was very, very privileged to spend some time online doing a Facebook Live with the fabulous Daisy Claydon. Now, people may be going, Daisy Claydon, who's she? Well, one of my favourite songs is by the Eurythmics, Annie Lennox, and it was with Aretha Franklin, and it was Sisters Are Doing It For Themselves. And there's a line in that track that says something like, behind every great man, there's a great woman. And Daisy is the great woman who is behind the Captain Tom story. So she started working with the family, lives in the same village. She's a freelance PR consultant, and her own story is really interesting, which people can watch on the recording. But she started working with the family because she'd gone freelance, having been made redundant, and that was while she was pregnant from her previous company. So she went and set up a freelance business, and and Captain Tom's family, one of her first clients, and a year ago, and of course been on that sort of bit of a journey, and he started walking, and they said, well, we'll do something with this, and their aim, as I think everybody knows, is to get to £1,000 of donation. And she's the PR mastermind behind it, and it was an absolute privilege and some real insightful moments. And we talked a lot about community and being led by the heart and making a difference and all of those sorts of things, which you know are all music to my ears. And for me, there were some moments when really the hairs on my arms were standing up, listening to this person awakened and doing something that really matters to her. So that was my very magic moment today.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant, and it's great to hear. I mean, we've heard a lot. He's been all over the press at the moment, but I think it's those kind of underlying stories that might not get the same kind of airtime, and it's really positive to hear that. So that's absolutely great to hear.
Yeah, I mean, she's fabulous to talk to, really open and honest, and knows herself well. Funnily enough, she graduated from University of Northampton, which is one of my clients. So that was very nice as well, instant connection there. But she's she's found her way to it, and her career story is really interesting. And she had a sense of where it was, but it's been developed into what it is now, and some amazing achievements. So 1.5 million people donated to Captain Tom's cause, and coverage in over and pick up, and people from all over 60 countries. So massive impact and reach. So amazing story.
Absolutely incredible. And as you say, really kind of shows the underlying sort of, I suppose, good news stories that perhaps don't always come out, but actually, are central to driving those sort of things forward. So my final good news story for the week is actually a bit of a different one. And this was an article, I think, in the Times from Simon Henderson, the headmaster of Eton School. And Eton have released their EtonX online learning platform, have made it available for state schools to download. And I think they've had something like 1,600 sign up to it already. And I think, there's often, I don't know, maybe some contention around private schools in this country. Not everyone feels the same way about them, but the article is really worth reading, because I think one of the key points he mentions in there, whether it's state or independent school, was he talks so much about the importance of emotional intelligence, hobby, character in the future over just kind of rigorous academic assessment. Yeah. Or supplementary to it. So I think it leads on really nicely to some of the stuff we're going to talk about today, but lovely to see, the sort of the patron, the headmaster of a, really, I suppose, kind of much maligned private school in some senses, talking what I think is a lot of sense about the education system. So really, really interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. Okay, right, if we kick off then, Carolyn, if you can just start by telling us a bit about how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected you personally, and your role as founder and director of Career Alchemy.
Okay, so back in the day when there was a previous lifetime, I used to go out and run training courses face-to-face with people, but I did do an awful lot of work online anyway. I had shifted into online work about 5 years ago when I set the business up as a primary way of being able to access and support people, because I live in downtown rural West Wales. And I look out the window now and I can see more sheep than people, and there's more grass than sheep by a long measure. So I've been used to working online. So in terms of the disruption of COVID, from that point of view, I just felt like it was the rest of the world was catching up. Okay. However, we locked down a week before everybody else because my husband has some health conditions, which meant we had to. So we've only been out of our house, out of our drive once, and that was, I'm smiling in memory, but I shouldn't really be, because it was actually to watch a funeral procession go past of somebody who died in the village, not of COVID as it happens. But yeah, so that was a bit of a moment. That was our only moment of leaving the premises. To say, and my biggest challenge has been to be able to get food delivered, because my normal supermarket, I won't name and shame, I've managed to get 2 deliveries from, and that's been sitting up at midnight trying to get the slot, that sort of bouncing through, hoping that you get the slot. Whereas another one who's just started, I can get a slot regularly and at choice. So that solved that problem. So it's those sorts of bits of life that have been the normal glue of life that I think most people have gone, oh, how does that now work then? I've got to do something really quite different and change my ways and change my brands and all the rest of it. So that's been an interesting experience. But other than that, I mean, I can quite safely and happily stay here because I'm very fortunate to live in a beautiful part of the world. And so I'm not keen to get in the car and start driving and mixing with lots of people, because I don't want to put my husband at risk, not least. So that's why. But it also afforded me the opportunity to go, there's a lot of unemployment coming. There's a lot of trouble coming, and I am long enough in the tooth to have lived through several recessions and know what they feel like. In fact, the year I graduated was 1983, and if you ask Charlie Ball from Hexu, and Prospects, he will tell you that was the year of the highest level of graduate unemployment ever. So I have that as a context as well, if you like. And I knew that there was a lot of difficulty coming, and because of some of the boards that I sit on as well, I've got an oversight into and insight and understanding, I think, to some of the challenges people have. I recently, because at the same time as COVID happened, I was fortunate to get onto a second project with the Cabinet Office, UK Government Cabinet Office, as part of their Inclusive Economy Partnership. which is their new way of working between government, social innovators and large companies to get those three constituent groups working together more effectively to solve some of the big challenges that we have, and particularly framed around financial inclusion, mental health in the workplace, and transition to work for young people. So that was my starting point, and I saw the disruption that was happening and thought we are going to have massive outfalls of people who cannot be economically active, who maybe can't go back to jobs if they're parents, because the furloughing won't prevent that business from folding potentially. And we've seen massive announcements of jobs going in sectors like tourism, hospitality, which we'd expect, and some others as well. And we still can't predict how big that's going to be, but Bank of England, I think it was today, talked about it being, they're expecting the deepest recession on record. And that means it's going to beat what happened in the 1920s, because that's already on record. So we're in for a bit of a rough ride in that sense. And also, as a parent myself, and a lot of our work has been scoped around helping parents help kids make good career choices. The problem that we then have is we've got a complete generation of youngsters not doing GCSEs and A levels in the way they used to, without the same rites of passage. And we are seeing massively, for obvious reasons, recruiters now pulling away from offers, changing their recruitment practices, and there's massive turbulence and change there. So I looked at this and thought, right, we've got a program that's research proven. Let's see if we can just get that out there and help as many people as possible understand how to make a good decision, because this is a point in life that we will never ever get again, and that's the benefit of this. We have a pause, a hiatus that says we can look at what's happening in the world, we can look at what's happening in our life, and we have a position, a time and space now in that position to be able to go, am I where I want to be? If not, where do I want to go? And there's a pause for reflection in all of this, I think, and that's why I went, right, we're going to get this out now. We're going to make sure that as many people as possible know about it, come and do it free, and we'll find some funding from somewhere to enable us to support. And I'm hugely grateful to the 20 odd people who have supported us from the career development community, led by Chris, who obviously is on here now, and supported by Helen, and also with help from Pete Small, who's looking after schools careers leads, all together and here ready to help anybody who has a career crisis, if they're a parent or a teenager or a young person going through university or coming out the other end. We are here to provide free support. And that's the point, really. We can all do something, and that's what Captain Tom showed us so clearly. Every person can stand up and do one thing to make a difference, whether that's big or small, but we can all do that one thing. And this is my thing to do. So that's where I am with it. We're, as you know, it's an active and growing community. We're already teaching, and we are looking to get as many people as possible in through our doors, both in terms of people who need help and people who want to support. So I hope that answers your question effectively for you.
Very thoroughly, thank you, that's great.
And I know we'll come on a little bit more about the Inspired Teenager Plus stuff a little bit later on, but I think one thing that you mentioned there, particularly about the turbulence, kind of affecting the job market, but also society in general, leads on really nicely to this sort of first discussion point, which I think kind of centers around some of the stuff you've said about that reframing of what career might look like. And I think, I guess, part of the problem we've got at the moment, looking on media, but also social media, is that you've got these kind of two sides of the debate. You've got the fact that people are being furloughed or people are losing their jobs, that immediate economic impact. And then also a lot of the stuff that you've just mentioned about, is there a more optimistic future in terms of reflecting, looking at what's happening at the moment, looking at some of the amazing things that are going on, and actually, how do those two sort of things tally side by side, and what does kind of the idea of work and society look like in the future? So I guess our first question for you really is, what are your thoughts on the concepts of career and work, and how those might be changed by what's happening at the moment with the pandemic?
Okay, so I think we need to sort of have a look at where we are and where we're going. So where and how do we work? Well, obviously work-life integration was already, the boundaries were blurring. That was already happening. I think what we've all forgotten almost in the midst of all of this COVID stuff, as we ride the coronavirus roller coaster, is that actually things were already very turbulent and changing quite rapidly beforehand because of Industry 4.0. That hasn't gone away. If anything, what COVID has done is turned into something I think MIT referred to the other day as becoming the bullet train of speed and change in the future. So we're already seeing massive disruption to sectors and roles and to individuals. And on culture. And our culture has been to go to work and be with others. But that's not always there now so much in the way that we're working now. So there's a big need to make sure the emotional intelligence is there. Picking up on the comment about Eton, you know, one of the things that we really need more and more moving forward is good emotional intelligence. And I think we're shifting from time serving, 9 to 5, 9 to 5:30, which has been very much the convention, along with, you know, business dress has obviously changed. We've got different ways of working now. And I think we're shifting much more to a results only way of working too. And of course, we work from home now. And I don't think that's going to change very much. I mean, there's lots of surveys out there now that sort of 60% of people say they love it. X number of people say this, X number of people say that. Y number say that. But I think what we'll have is some blended mix where people will have some time working at home, some time working in offices. That's what I'm hearing from the organisations I'm talking to. And that there might be the rise of some more type buildings like Deloitte's Edge building in Amsterdam, which is green and supports a lot of hot desking. There's a great video on the Edge building on YouTube. If anybody wants to watch it afterwards, you'll see how powerful that is. And the changes they're making as well at the moment, you can find out about too. But also, if you look at small businesses working from home, I'm a small business. I work from home. I don't have the overheads. I don't need the overheads. I need social contact. And there's a case popped up this week of a guy who runs a digital marketing business. He's got 20 staff. They're not going to go back to an office. When the lease runs out, that's it. They're going to stay working from home. But what they will do is meet in hotels for brainstorming, creativity sessions, and also then develop that into more of a social event. So the shape of the working day will change. I think we'll see more people working in cafes as well. And this sense of multifunctional spaces that people will work in. So when we think about why we do what we do, I think we are seeing a massive, big shift in values. And I think there's a massive rebalancing happening as well. We have gone through and are still going through a really tough experience, which actually is bringing out the very best in what makes us particularly human. So we're seeing huge waves of kindness and compassion and wanting to make a difference, looking after the neighbour you've never spoken to before who's 2 doors down. And that sense of human connection is growing. And I think what we've also done is realised how little we actually need and what we really value. And they're not the same as they were. And whereas we might have gone out and bought things to make us feel better, I think we're realising in this circumstance, that's just not going to cut the grain. So what we need now is other ways of feeling that sense of belonging and compassion and significance. And all of those themes, I think, will flow through into the world of work. So what might that look like? I think we're going to see greater, faster change as Industry 4.0 gathers speed and the disruption continues because, well, if you just look at that statistic about how many people can go through a train station in an hour that I saw this week or last week, it's something like 250,000 people an hour. And that becomes 50,000 that they can cope with. Well, what do the other 200,000 people do then? Because they can't get to work at that time. So there's all that sort of stuff that's going to cause churn too. New technologies are here and will grow. And so we'll see more decentralized structures. We're going to get much more digital stuff. I'm waiting for the day when we have virtual reality video conferencing much more. So we can feel like we're with family in the same room, for instance. I don't know about you guys. We have a weekly family Zoom quiz. Doing really badly, lost 3 weeks on the bounce. Moving on, I can see much more of human machine working too, much more AI coming through as long as that's used ethically. And that will give us much more prediction of trends and much more big data to give us insights. We will certainly, I think, see more levelling up across regions. If you don't have to go to an office, but you can join virtually, why do you need to live in that vicinity? You can go and live somewhere where it's cheaper, where there's a different type of world to live in, where you can have a different lifestyle that connects with work. That may have some effect on property prices, but I think because of the shift to online retail, we're going to see more warehousing and more logistics stuff needed. So that might compensate in a way with the offices going down and property shifts. Sectors going to be affected, retail up on online, down elsewhere, niching of retailers, and much more valuing your local specialist retailer, your specialist business that has provided support. Where I live, we've had lots of organisations who have pivoted dramatically from being really lovely eateries and restaurants and stuff to doing home deliveries and all sorts of creative things, you know, providing online IT systems to get things through, all sorts of stuff. And I think the value that they have given and the way that they now feel valued and are valued by local communities will grow. So I think that will change. Much more gig economy activity, and that's one of the things I talked about with Daisy this morning. She's a freelancer, she works on the gig platform. in some of her work, and we'll see, I think, the rise of global specialists who are freelancers and maybe in a particular niche even more than we have done. We're constantly learning new skills. I don't know about you guys, but I must have used 5, 6, 7 different video conferencing platforms in the last 3 weeks alone. And the speed of that work has gone up so much so that I'm quite worried if it's going to be sustainable at the speed we're all working at, but let's keep our fingers crossed it'll settle back a bit. But I think constantly learning new stuff, I think that will go through to being able to do a bit of pick and mix on university courses as well, and doing that online. So we've got blended learning there, and hopefully more levelling and accessibility for people who've been disadvantaged to access that as well. And then I think business is shifting in 2 ways. This sense, much more of a sense of virtual collaboration than there ever was. And less competition and more collaboration, and using new tools to solve problems together. And of course, a lot of that's underpinned by a significant shift towards supporting the ethos behind the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And that was really pushed hard back in August, which seems like an entire lifetime ago, by the US Roundtable, Business Roundtable, and they came out with a purpose of corporation statement, which actually put shareholder value at the bottom of the list, not the top. And that was a big seismic change there that I think probably most people missed, but I think will continue now. So we'll see, obviously, value for customers first off, and then investing in staff, working ethically with suppliers, supporting communities, helping the environment, and then value for shareholders. So I think all of that will change things quite significantly, and we'll get lots of new careers that will come up, lots of new stuff in tech. We don't even know what the name of the role is. And we all, I know, are familiar with the quote from the World Economic Forum that said that today's primary school kids will be doing jobs that 65% of the jobs they'll be doing we don't even know about. You know, let's use that hackneyed quote again, but it's equally valid now. So lots and lots of change, new opportunities, and therefore demanding changes to other things as well, I think, partly, and part of that would be education, I think.
Really interesting insights, Carolyn. I feel like I've stepped into a new world just by you talking about
It's good over here. Come and join me.
It sounds absolutely brilliant, yeah. But really interesting insights. And I think as well, like we're all, like you said, we were already kind of seeing organisations shift and pivot, diversify their offering, and it's really interesting to see the kind of speed that a lot of companies have adapted to, and I think that's really goes to show how well they can adapt. Just moving on to the next discussion point, you've mentioned briefly about education and the change that could be afoot. The move to online learning for schools and colleges and universities, we've had a number of quite significant articles come out in recent weeks regarding the purpose of education and how the education system might need to adapt, particularly in terms of moving away from a focus on data and assessment and a more holistic model of education. So do you think the pandemic might precipitate how we look at education in general? And what would be on your wish list for the future of education in the UK?
Okay, so I think now is, again, it's that moment in time when we can sit and go, is there a better way? And we have to be doing that at the moment because we can't get complete classes of kids back in again. And therefore, some people, unfortunately, are going to be dropping back in their educational progress for some while. I think there's 2 things about the purpose of education there. One is about, yes, currently it's teaching to the test.
Yeah.
And that's got the focus in totally the wrong place for young people. So what we create then is a few stars who do really well. We create some sleepwalkers who wander their way through and are compliant and will learn. And then we create a whole pile of saboteurs who the system has totally lost. And they've failed to understand the system. They fall out, and then we wonder why they've become disruptive, because we've lost them along the way. And if you don't have a clear sense of why, you become more anxious about the future because it's uncertain. But if you've got a sense of why, it creates that sense of certainty and sort of inner control that we all crave. And I think if you go back to the real purpose of education, you look at people like Martin Luther King, Ken Robinson, Sir Anthony Sheldon, you look at their sort of ethos, we're talking about schooling education should be not just about acknowledging one's own intelligence and developing it, but also character, natural talent, personality, the way of learning, providing the ability for those pupils and students to make decisions and achieve their goals because they have self-efficacy. They're driven from the inside out. And we are failing wholesale to light the spark in a lot of young people. We're putting them through processes they don't understand, but some are more compliant than others are going through it, but they're not actually getting the point. And those that do have had a lot of help to get there very often. So if I had a magic wand and I could wave it, Helen, my wish list would be something like this. Let's encourage self-efficacy and motivation in learners. Help them find a personal why so they can make better choices that match that why. So it's driven from the inside out. Help young people make meaning from their experiences. And I'm thinking not just in education, I think particularly careers education there, where in schools everybody's busy putting kids through lots of experiences, which is fantastic. But what we're failing to do enough is to give them an ability to make sense of those experiences. So if you have an employer come in and talk to a room of 100 people, 3 or 4 of those kids and listeners will resonate with what they're saying. And the other 96 will be going, well, that was an hour of my life I'm never going to get back. And therefore they become less engaged with careers and the whole process because it's not been meaningful to them. And I think we need to switch that. And the same applies for teaching as well. If you can't see the relevance, I still wonder today why I ever had to do that blinking equation that said, if you take the plug out of the bath and what's the speed of the water going through? And I used to sit there going, I don't understand. And I don't understand why everyone wants to know about this either. So I think we have to make it practical and help people understand what it's all about. So we need to teach them about how to do that, really. And that means they need to develop some critical thinking. They need to be able to reflect and develop that clear sense of purpose. Now, there's an activity that we use in the Inspire Teenager Plus program. It's in the first session, and it gets people to create a life graph where they map out the highs and lows of their life and look at it and see what they can learn from it. And very often they'll realize there's lots of good stuff that they can get out of all the terrible experiences, and they'll realize how that's helped them develop. And it can also form the seed of something that might turn into a career. And also it helps them see that it's not all bad, there've been good bits as well, depending on what sort of life they've had. That could be quite high or quite low. And I was talking only yesterday with David from Toolshed, who's another of the people involved in this Boost program through the Inclusive Economy Partnership. And we were talking about the same thing. We were talking about this, we've got to help them understand themselves and their journey to make that meaning and it makes sense moving forward, or we lose them. I think we need to introduce greater and deeper personalisation education in the sense of self-knowledge, deeper inquiry. So we've got granular individual data and we can very quickly spot when somebody's missing and not getting what we want them to get, which is more than they're getting now, by the way. But also big data, and that will inform courses and policy and so forth. So we need to do both. Tech helps kids learn. We need to help them do that, and it helps them learn at their own pace. We need to do more about creative problem solving, help them become effective collaborators, move quickly, all the stuff that's being demonstrated really clearly going through this experience now. Help them to learn about them too. And in terms of good developments, I'm going to put a bit of a shout out for Wales, because I do wear the badge of Wales with pride. And I'm going to shout out about 2 things, actually. One, it's the national curriculum. We've got a new curriculum coming into Wales, and it has 4 purposes, okay, which drive it. And so the purpose of teaching in Wales moving forward is to create ambitious and capable learners ready to learn through their lives, enterprising creative contributors ready to play a full part in life and work, healthy, confident individuals ready to lead fulfilling lives as valued members of society, and ethical, informed citizens ready to be citizens of Wales and the world. Now, underpinning those, or with those 4 there, those 4 curriculum purposes, there's some cross-cutting skills, literacy, numeracy, and digital competence. And then there are 6 areas of learning and experience where things have been grouped together. So maths and numeracy, language, literacy and communication, at both English, Welsh and foreign languages, science and tech together, health and well-being together, expressive arts together, and humanities. And the aim is to give people a clearer view of what's going on and an understanding what they're trying to educate people to become through that process. So there's my shout out for Wales. And we also in Wales are doing a lot of mapping, not me personally, but we have a spectacular lady called the Future Generations Commissioner, Sophie. And she has led a large amount of mapping to the UN SDGs, so that in Wales we have mapped right the way across, and there's a website you can go on and you can actually look to see how well we're doing in each of the UN SDGs and how they map against our goals. And the Wales goals, which address their 7 well-being goals they're described as, and they address the 4 dimensions of sustainable development in Wales: economic, social, environmental and cultural. And those 7 well-being goals are about being prosperous, resilient, healthier, more equal, cohesive communities, vibrant culture and thriving Welsh language, and globally responsible. So you can hear where that's going. And you can hear how that plays to some things we've been talking about, I think, interestingly. But that's a flavour where I think things need to go educationally. Give people an understanding why, so they can make sense of it all, and then they can go and shine.
I think that's really interesting, Carolyn, and particularly, I mean, you know, as you say, we're at a point in time now where life and work have never been closer together. So for education not to kind of address that, you know, it's not just about learning, and it's not just about life, it's not just about work, but it's about all these things kind of brought together and how they fit together, I think is incredibly important. So Carolyn, you mentioned a little bit earlier on, obviously, about the Inspired Teenager Plus initiative, and sort of a little bit about why you decided to launch that now. I mean, based on some of those comments that you've made sort of regarding the education system, where do you feel that the Inspired Teenager Plus programme fits within all of this? And I guess that method of perhaps taking education on a supplementary level, not just within the schools, but other ways that people can facilitate that.
How does it fit? Well, I think it fits at the moment with parents sitting at home with their teenagers, which is what triggered it to be brought out now, because I teach this stuff and I deliver this in a variety of ways, direct to young people and with their parents and to older people as well, and for organisations that need it. So how does this fit now? It's because there are parents sitting at home with teens who are lost and they need a helping hand. And that was the whole ethos behind this. I've got the programme, we'll roll this out, you can hop on and you can start to use it. And I think there's a metaphor that I just want to talk about for a minute, which is around shopping. If you're going to shop effectively, typically you know what it is you're going to buy. And yet we expect young people and adults to make choices about their career, and we don't help them do that. And so, you know, if you know the pair of boots you want to buy, you can walk into the shoe shop, the boots will wave at you from the shelf, and you'll try them on and go, yeah, this is it, they fit, I'll pay and go. If you don't know you need boots even, you don't even go into the right shop. And that's what this is about. It's about helping people understand. It's a research proven framework. It uses a career coaching ethos. It asks questions that are probably questions most people have never been asked before. And it helps therefore that sense of deep learning. And it uses the UN Sustainable Development Goals as a lens to make that choice by looking at not just what job or sector, but actually changing the question totally. So what's the problem you want to help with? What's the cause that you feel linked to? And now let's look at how we take that and map it over to a sector or a role. Because otherwise you're expecting somebody to pick something out of 800 different roles. How on earth can you do that if you don't have a process? So this fits as something that can be done through schools, it can be done outside schools, it's online, it can be delivered face-to-face, other people can be trained to deliver it as well. So it's very flexible. It does have a set start, middle and end, in that it's got 8 modules that you work through and supplementary questions and an overview planner that gives you a one-page view of what you're doing with your life. And that's not something we typically do. And therefore, if you did that piece first, you could then make decisions that help you take the right courses. And that's how it fits in the education context. And I think it's really key for people who are not, yes, at 16, you can get away with making a wrong O-level, a wrong GCSE choice at 14, because you can catch up a GCSE in the 6th form, yeah? But if you get your A-levels wrong, in terms of you didn't do the right things for the direction you suddenly realize you want to go in, that's a much bigger story. And it only gets worse when you're a university in your second year and you walk into the careers advisor in tears, as happened to me a lot of times, and I'm sure has happened to you guys, going, what am I doing here? I'm totally lost. And then there's a whole pile of human collateral damage that's done then in that point for that individual in terms of self-confidence, and they get lost and it costs them, and there's loss of face and they keep carrying on because they don't let their family down, etc., etc. So I think that's the stuff, that's what we're doing, is to help prevent all of that, because the cure part is painful for everybody and prevention is far better. And if we can do that, we can raise aspirations, we give people an opportunity to change, we give them a sense of parents being able to help kids because they want to, but they'll pass on information from when they made their choices, and that's terribly out of date. It was out of date before coronavirus, it's definitely out of date now. And what we do with the programme now through the Inspired Teenager Plus Facebook group is we're providing live LMI, live labour market information, which helps people understand how it's changing, and they can take that into their choices as well. So I hope that answered your question, Chris, as to how that fits into the whole piece.
Yeah, absolutely, Carolyn. And I think for anyone who's sort of listening at home and has heard a little bit about Inspired Teenager Plus, maybe wants to find out a little bit more, we will be putting the links within the sort of comment threads, the episode notes. So please do take a look at that. Please do sort of get involved and see, you know, how perhaps either you could support it if you're a careers professional, or if you're a parent of a teenager, or indeed a teenager yourself, if you happen to be listening, you know, have a look and see whether it's something that might be useful for you. Carolyn, I'll come back to you very quickly on that.
Yeah, please, if you would, because I think it helps us reframe the way we talk about work. It's not what we do, but why we do it. And it's that potential that lies fallow in young people and older people as well is the thing that I think is the biggest shame that we have, that we don't even know we're losing. So it's about not what job do you want, but what difference do you want to make? We have challenges. Those 17 UN SDGs are challenges not just globally, they're local. And there's research done recently that says some of them won't be achieved before 2073. That's a 50-year career, which is typically what careers last these days. So pick a problem that's going to last. You'll have a theme that will keep you going for life. And that enables us to change the conversation with kids from CVs, application skills and employability, which is all quite transactional, to the language of hope and purpose and belonging and significance and motivation. And what do you want to do? Because you can do something. And that makes us puts us in a position to be able to make smarter and wiser choices about our future, I think.
And I think that will be music to the ears of many careers professionals listening to this, and actually, to be honest, many parents and individuals who I think, long for a framing in that sense rather than that transactional approach, as you mentioned.
I don't know how you can write a CV if you don't know what you're aiming it at. That's like trying to answer an exam question when you don't know the answer, write the answer when you don't know the question. It's impossible. So we've got the tail wagging the dog and we need to move things around a bit. And we also need to understand where the new opportunities are as well and keep an eye on that horizon for change.
Okay, so Carolyn, you work with quite a lot of different boards related to career and work-related organisations. I just wanted to know, are you hearing any kind of common themes regarding how support services are planning to support individuals whose working lives have been impacted by the pandemic?
Yes, I am. I'm very fortunate to sit on the board of the Citizens Advice Bureau in my county, Ceredigion, and I also sit on the board of Antir Tevi, which is a £3 million social enterprise that provides part of the Business Wales service for supporting business startups and growth in Wales. And I also wear the badge of honour, very proudly looking after the Career Development Institute's members in Wales as well. So I think there's a number of themes I pull out there. Huge uncertainty for everyone. Pressure on finance for all of those organisations in different ways, and therefore pivoting themselves to be able to adapt to support, seeing a huge increase on need. Certainly with Citizens Advice Bureau, lots of conversations nationally about how people are going to be supported through debt and housing issues and domestic violence, which is growing, and poverty generally. The big piece around digital inclusion. Or rather digital exclusion, because there are lots of people who can't come online and do things because they don't have the skills, they don't have the money, they don't have the kit. So the people at the margins are suffering more, I think. In terms of helping members of staff, all of those organisations have spent time, and as every other organisation, in making sure that people working from home now are okay. So one of the first questions is, how are you today? I think is on the lips of all the people in those organisations. From a CDI perspective, we have delivered a working from home webinar that was hugely popular. We've supported our block members with specific courses that they need to help them pivot to deal with different client groups, for instance. CDI has brought on a whole pile of new bite-sized courses to build digital understanding and skills and support members. There's been much more on safeguarding online. With Antir Tevi and Citizens Advice, that's been very much how do we support the staff to do those things well as well. So some very common themes there, I think. A particular awareness of mental health. And I think, there were some early days that people were really struggling from highs and lows. I think people got more, I wouldn't say comfortable, but more used to the situation now. But I think still people have good days and bad days, and we all have to recognise that. And my heart goes out to anybody who's homeschooling with young kids and trying to work a full-time job as well, because that's a really tough gig. So I think, I think every organisation that I've worked with is doing something significant to change. And looking forward, more home working, less big office stuff. I think certainly for a lot of the organisations that I'm talking to, not just the ones I've mentioned, but others as well. So lots of change and lots of need.
Absolutely. And I think, you've mentioned quite a lot today about, change affecting all sorts of people, organisations, individuals. And so I guess, just to sort of tie things up today, it'd be really interesting to hear from your point of view, any advice that you might have for individuals such as job seekers or career professionals or organisations in terms of, I suppose, how to adapt, and if there are any kind of key tips from your perspective in terms of being resilient to that change, what might those look like?
Okay, so there's a quote from a French writer called Proust that says, "My destination is no longer a place, but a new way of seeing." And I really think that's what we have to help our clients do, is to see things differently. This is the perfect moment, as I said earlier, to take stock. It's the perfect time to do what Daisy talks about in her interview, which is hearing your heart and leading from the heart, following that instinct that says, this is the place I want to go. Because if you change direction now, nobody's going to worry about why, because there was coronavirus. So you don't need to explain and feel any sort of barrier to change. You can just change because everybody else will be, or a lot of people will. And I think there's stuff about finding that purpose. It could be hidden in something that's happened to you previously. It could come out of the volunteering you're doing in through coronavirus and COVID-19. But this is the time to upskill. It's the time to get your digital skills really under your belt, to stretch yourself a little bit in that learning and to commit to it in the longer term. Invest time. You don't have to invest money. There's lots of free courses online, more than you can shake a stick at. You don't have to spend money, but you do need to invest time. Build your networks. Everybody you know could help you, and somebody that you know, they will know somebody else who could help you as well. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask, and try out new ideas. This is a perfect time to dip a toe in the water and test and see if you like it or not. And you can do that safely from home online in a lot of instances, or you might need to go down the volunteering route to try it. But do that stuff, stretch your comfort zone, because once a comfort zone's stretched out, it doesn't normally come back in again. It normally just keeps on growing. I think you need to know yourself, and so future-proofing wise, scan the horizon. Become what I call an economic weather watcher. Is it rainy or sunny in that sector at the moment? What's going to happen in the longer term? Think about a portfolio career, so you haven't got all your eggs in one basket and you can spread the risk, or you can stretch and have more variety, but have a common theme that gives you that sense of control, that sense of purpose, that cause that holds it all together. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Carolyn.
Brilliant.
I think there's some amazing reflections there. I think particularly, as you mentioned, this is the one point in time that people will have this moment, not a moment that anybody asked for, not a moment that anybody particularly wanted, but there are loads of things in there that you've mentioned that perhaps would allow people to at least use that moment and kind of looking ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to add to that, I mean, I really liked your discussion about the life story. And I think, as someone that's done that myself with a mentor that I had last year, and I've always recommended it to new mentees that we have on the Hallam Career Mentoring Programme and clients that I've spoke to and worked with in the past, I do think now is the time to really reflect back, but do a life story, do a career kind of history, if you want to focus it on career as well. But I think that activity in itself doesn't take long to do, but the impact that it can have on yourself going forward, just to echo what you said there, Carolyn, I think would change the future outcome for people a lot. Yeah. Really.
You can't tell a story effectively if you don't understand it.
Absolutely.
So we have to understand our story, then develop it, and then tell it to others to then get the way forward. And if we don't do those things, then we just are like lots of offcuts sitting on the studio floor.
Yeah,
absolutely. They're there, but they don't join up and make sense.
Yeah, I feel like Helen and I have a lot of homework coming off the back of this chat. Plenty.
Sorry, Chris.
And hopefully plenty to take away for our listeners as well. If you've enjoyed anything that you've heard today, please do drop some comments in the comment thread when we publish the podcast. And we'll do our best to answer them, or if not, open them up to Carolyn on social media, who's always very happy to engage with people I know via LinkedIn, Twitter, and various other platforms. So, Carolyn, thanks so much for your time today. And it's been a pleasure having you on.
You're very, very welcome. I've loved having a chat with you, and I love seeing your trees wave in the background of that false background you've got, Helen. It reminds me of a time we went to Jamaica years ago. I might get back there one day. Keep safe, everybody. Thanks ever so much.
I'm definitely not in Jamaica.
You wish. Take care of yourselves. Keep safe.
If you've been interested in anything that we've talked about on today's podcast, do get in touch with us via the comment threads on the podcast link, wherever you're listening. We'll be tuning in again next week with a guest soon to be announced. And each week when we announce the guest, we'll be giving you a chance to put questions to the special guest in advance of the podcast. Thanks for tuning in and listening to us here on The New Normal.